I'm Elena Ward, and I never thought a culinary competition would change my life. But there I was, sitting in the packed auditorium at the Milwaukee Convention Center, clutching a homemade poster with Chef Marcus' rules scrawled in green marker. The autumn chill outside matched my nerves as I watched my favorite contestant prep his station for the final round. The guy next to me reeked of beer and kept shouting obscenities at the judges. I'd paid $30 for this seat, and all I wanted was to watch Marcus create his magic without some drunk ruining it. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. "Excuse me, is this seat taken?" A voice beside me made me turn. She had the most striking blue eyes I'd ever seen, framed by shoulder-length brunette hair that caught the stage lights perfectly, professional blazer, confident smile, and damn if she wasn't holding her own Marcus poster. "Your team Marcus too?" I asked, scooting over to make room. "Absolutely. His sustainability approach is revolutionary." She settled in beside me, her perfume subtle but intoxicating. "I'm Laura. Elena. And yes, finally someone who gets it." Marcus had just started his signature dish when disaster struck. His soufflé base slipped right out of his hands, splattering across the floor in a magnificent mess. The crowd gasped. Laura and I looked at each other and burst into laughter. "Well, that's one way to innovate," she whispered, leaning close enough that I caught her breath against my ear. "Poor guy's probably having a heart attack right now." I found myself studying her profile, the way she bit her lip when concentrating. "He'll recover. Look at him already improvising." She was right. Marcus had pivoted to a completely different dish, his hands moving with practiced precision. But I was having trouble focusing on the competition. This woman beside me radiated an energy that made my skin tingle. "You work in food service?" Laura asked during the commercial break. "Nutritionist." "You?" "Marketing. Though I've been thinking about a career change lately." Her smile carried a hint of something I couldn't quite read. When Marcus pulled off his improvised dish and won the whole damn competition, Laura and I jumped up cheering together. Our hands touched for just a moment as we high-fived, and I felt something electric pass between us. "Want to grab coffee and celebrate?" The words tumbled out before I could stop them. "I thought you'd never ask." As we walked out into the crisp Milwaukee night, I realized I hadn't thought about my ex-girlfriend Sarah once during the entire evening. This stranger had somehow made me forget 3 years of heartbreak in the span of 2 hours. "So, Elena the nutritionist," Laura said as we strolled down Water Street. "Tell me what you really think about Marcus's sustainability philosophy." I launched into my theories about regenerative agriculture and clean eating, expecting her eyes to glaze over like most people's did. Instead, she asked smart questions that showed she was actually listening. By the time we reached the corner cafe, I was completely hooked. "Rain check on that coffee?" she asked, checking her phone. "Early meeting tomorrow." "Of course." I tried not to sound disappointed. She pulled out her business card and wrote something on the back. "My personal number. In case you want to continue this conversation." I watched her walk away, her confident stride carrying her into the night. The card in my hand felt warm, like it held some kind of promise I didn't quite understand yet. 3 days later, fate struck again at Brew and Bean downtown. I was nursing my third espresso, trying to make sense of a client's food diary when someone bumped into my table. Coffee splashed across my notes, and I looked up ready to give whoever it was a piece of my mind. "Oh damn, I'm so sorry." Blue eyes, brunette hair, same infectious smile. Laura stood there with an apologetic expression, napkins already in hand. "Elena, right? From the Marcus disaster?" "Laura." My irritation melted instantly, and these notes were garbage anyway. She slid into the seat across from me without asking, which would have annoyed me with anyone else. But something about her confidence felt natural, like we'd done this 100 times before. "Let me buy you lunch to make up for the coffee catastrophe," she said, signaling the waitress. I was just telling myself I needed a break from spreadsheets. Marketing spreadsheets or the career change kind? Both, actually. Her laugh had an edge to it. "My company just lost 3 major clients, and honestly, I'm starting to think it's a sign." The waitress appeared and Laura ordered for both of us without checking what I wanted. Normally that would have set my teeth on edge, but she'd somehow picked exactly what I was craving. "So what kind of sign are we talking about?" I found myself leaning forward, genuinely curious. "The kind that says maybe pushing energy drinks and processed food isn't my calling." She stirred her coffee absently. Plus my girlfriend just moved out last month, so it's been a hell of a year. My heart did this stupid little skip. Girlfriend, past tense. She didn't appreciate the career crisis? Sarah didn't appreciate a lot of things about me, apparently. Laura's voice carried more hurt than she probably intended. Story for another day, though. What about you, living the nutritionist dream? I told her about my tiny practice, the clients who wanted miracle fixes, my fantasy of opening a real wellness restaurant where food could actually heal people. She listened like every word mattered, asking questions that showed she understood the business side better than I did. Milwaukee needs something like that, she said when I finished. The whole food scene here is still stuck in the cheese and beer dark ages. Spoken like a true marketing professional. Former marketing professional, maybe. I'm seriously considering a complete life overhaul. Hours passed without either of us noticing. The cafe crowd turned over twice while we sat there talking about everything from sustainable farming to her disaster of a relationship. She had this way of making me feel heard that I hadn't experienced in years. I should probably head home, I said finally, noticing the late afternoon light streaming through the windows. Actually, I have a weird request. Laura hesitated, then pushed forward. You mentioned personalized nutrition plans. Could you maybe help me figure out why I feel like garbage all the time? You mean, professionally? I mean, I'll pay your rates and everything. I just think I need someone who actually knows what they're talking about. She paused. And someone I trust. Trust. The word hung between us, loaded with meaning neither of us was ready to unpack yet. Sure, I can do that. I pulled out my appointment book, trying to look professional while my pulse hammered. How's Thursday evening? Perfect. We stood to leave and she stepped closer, ostensibly to grab her jacket from the chair. Her perfume hit me again, and I caught myself staring at her mouth when she smiled. Elena? Yeah? Thanks for letting me crash your afternoon. Before I could respond, she leaned in and kissed my cheek. Just a quick, friendly peck that lasted maybe 2 seconds. But the warmth of her lips against my skin lingered long after she walked away. I sat back down heavily, my legs suddenly unreliable. Thursday couldn't come fast enough. Thursday evening arrived with Laura standing in my home office doorway, looking nervous in a way I hadn't seen before. She'd traded her professional blazer for jeans and a soft sweater that made her eyes seem even bluer. Welcome to my extremely professional consultation space, I said, gesturing to my converted spare bedroom with its desk, scale, and motivational posters about Whole Foods. It's perfect. Very you. She settled into the client chair, clutching a folder thick with papers. I brought everything you asked for. Food diary, medical history, the works. I tried to focus on her paperwork instead of how the evening light caught her hair. Client first, Elena. Professional boundaries. But when she leaned forward to hand me her forms, her fingers brushed mine and I forgot what professional meant. So, you've been feeling tired, bloated, generally awful for about 6 months? I scanned her meticulously detailed food diary. Right around when things got complicated with Sarah? You think heartbreak can mess with digestion? Stress absolutely can. But looking at this, you're basically living on coffee and whatever the office vending machine offers. I set the papers aside. When did you last eat a actual vegetable? Does the pickle on my burger count? Laura. Fine, it's been a while. She looked genuinely sheepish. I know it's bad, that's why I'm here. Over the next hour, I walked her through basic nutrition principles, meal planning, how to read labels. She asked smart questions and took notes like her life depended on it. But I kept catching myself watching the way she bit her lip when concentrating, the graceful movement of her hands. You want some tea? I asked when we finished the formal consultation. I have this amazing chamomile blend. That sounds perfect. I busied myself in the kitchen while she wandered around my living room, examining the plants and cookbooks. When I returned with steaming mugs, she was studying a photo on my bookshelf. Is this your family? Just me and my best friend Juliana. We're not really the traditional family type. I get that. She accepted the tea gratefully. My parents stopped speaking to me when I came out. Traditional isn't always better. We settled on my couch, supposedly to review her meal plan, but somehow ending up deep in conversation about growing up different in small Midwest towns. She told me about hiding her first crush on her female soccer coach, about the relief and terror of finally accepting who she was. Sarah was my first serious relationship, she admitted, cradling her mug. Maybe I stayed too long because I was scared of being alone again. Being alone isn't the worst thing. Better than being with someone who doesn't really see you. God, yes. She used to introduce me as her friend at work events. Said it was complicated because of her job, but it just felt like shame. The vulnerability in her voice made my chest ache. I set down my tea and shifted closer, not really thinking about what I was doing. Her loss, I said softly. Laura looked up at me then, and something in her expression shifted. The careful professional distance we'd been maintaining crumbled in an instant. Elena, can I tell you something? Anything. I didn't really need a nutritionist. I mean, I do. But that's not why I'm here. My heart hammered against my ribs. Why are you here? Because I can't stop thinking about you. Since the competition, you're all I think about. Your laugh, the way you light up when you talk about food, how you make me feel like maybe I'm not completely lost. I should have said something professional about boundaries, about taking things slow. Instead, I reached up and touched her cheek. I've been thinking about you too. She leaned into my touch, and suddenly we were kissing, soft at first, tentative, then deeper as she responded. Her hands tangled in my hair and I pulled her closer, tasting chamomile and possibility on her lips. When we broke apart, both breathing hard, she rested her forehead against mine. Is this crazy? She whispered. Probably, but I don't care. She kissed me again then, hungrier this time, and I felt something inside me that had been dormant for months suddenly spring to life. We moved together toward my bedroom, shedding clothes and inhibitions alike. Her skin was soft and warm under my hands, and when she gasped my name into the darkness, I knew I was already completely gone for her. Afterward, she curled against my side, and I traced lazy patterns on her shoulder while she dozed. 3 days ago, she'd been a stranger cheering for the same chef. Now she was here in my bed, changing everything I thought I knew about my carefully ordered life. Elena? She murmured sleepily. Best consultation ever. I laughed and pulled her closer, already dreading the moment morning would come and force us back into the real world. 2 weeks later, I was practically bouncing in my chair at Oceano restaurant, waiting for Laura to meet my best friend. Juliana arrived first, her wild red hair styled into submission for once, gray eyes scanning the room like she was casing the joint. You look disgustingly happy, she said, sliding into the booth across from me. And you're glowing. Either you found an amazing new face cream, or you're getting laid regularly. Jules, behave yourself. So it's the second thing. Good for you. When do I meet this mysterious woman who's got you walking on air? Before I could answer, Laura appeared at our table looking stunning in a black dress that hugged her curves perfectly. I stood to greet her, and she kissed me softly on the lips without any hesitation. Public displays of affection. Another first. Juliana, meet Laura. Laura, my best friend and business partner in crime, Juliana Jones. They shook hands, and I watched Juliana size Laura up with the intensity of a protective older sister. Which was ridiculous, since she was only 3 years older and twice as reckless as me. So you're the one who's got Elena cooking dinner at home instead of living on protein bars, Juliana said as we settled in. Guilty as charged. Though in my defense, her protein bar collection was seriously impressive. 23 different flavors, I added proudly. That's not normal, Elena. The conversation flowed easily once Juliana decided Laura had passed whatever mysterious test she'd been conducting. We ordered wine, shared appetizers, and I found myself relaxing in a way I hadn't expected. Having the two most important people in my life getting along felt like some kind of miracle. Elena tells me you work in marketing, Juliana said during the main course. Ever think about the hospitality industry? Actually, I've been considering a complete career change lately. Why? What did you have in mind? Juliana glanced at me, then back at Laura. Can you keep a secret? Jules, what are you up to? I've been looking at properties for a new business venture, something Milwaukee's missing. She paused dramatically. An upscale bar specifically for women, sophisticated, welcoming, the kind of place we'd actually want to spend our Friday nights. Laura set down her wine glass. You mean a lesbian bar? I mean a women's bar. But yes, primarily catering to our community. Juliana's eyes lit up with the passion that drove all her crazy schemes. The last real lesbian bar in Milwaukee closed 5 years ago. There's a whole demographic with nowhere to go except straight clubs where we get gawked at or hit on by drunk guys. I'd heard variations of this rant before, but seeing Laura's reaction made me pay closer attention. She was leaning forward, asking detailed questions about target demographics and marketing strategies. What about financing? Permits? You'd need serious capital to pull this off, Laura said. I have some savings, and Elena's going to be my partner. I am? This was news to me. You are. Your restaurant dream, remember? We could do a full kitchen, healthy options, maybe even some of those fancy juice cleanses you're always talking about. Laura's face transformed with excitement. That's brilliant. The wellness angle could attract a broader customer base while still maintaining the core identity. Exactly what I was thinking. Juliana grinned. You should consider joining us. We'll need someone who understands branding and customer outreach. Jules, we literally just told her about this 5 minutes ago. I protested. Sometimes the best decisions happen fast, Laura said quietly. And honestly, this sounds like exactly the kind of project I need in my life right now. I looked between them, watching my best friend and my girlfriend bond over entrepreneurial schemes. The smart thing would be to slow down, think it through, make lists and business plans. Instead, I heard myself saying, when do we start? Juliana raised her wine glass. To the 3 smartest women in Milwaukee. To taking chances, Laura added, looking directly at me. To having no idea what we're getting ourselves into, I finished. We clinked glasses and I felt that familiar flutter of anticipation I got before jumping into something that would probably change my life. Laura reached under the table and squeezed my hand, and I realized I didn't care if this was crazy. Having her beside me made everything feel possible. So what's our first step? I asked. Property hunting, Juliana said. I've got appointments to see 3 places this week. You 2 free Saturday? Laura nodded enthusiastically. I can't wait to see what we're working with. The rest of dinner passed in a blur of planning and excitement. By the time we said goodbye to Juliana, Laura and I were practically vibrating with nervous energy. Your best friend is intense, Laura said as we walked to our cars. That's putting it mildly. You sure you want to get involved with her schemes? With her schemes? Definitely. With you? She pulled me close and kissed me under the streetlight. I'm already way too involved to back out now. Saturday morning found us tramping through Milwaukee's 3rd Ward, following Juliana as she dragged us to 3 different properties. The first was a basement dungeon that smelled like stale beer and broken dreams. The second had potential but no parking. Then we walked into the 3rd space on Water Street, and everything clicked. This is it, I breathed, taking in the exposed brick walls and soaring ceilings. Natural light poured through massive windows, and I could already picture where the bar would go, where we'd set up the kitchen. It's perfect, Laura agreed, pulling out her phone to take pictures. The location alone is worth the price. Walking distance from downtown, easy access from the east side. Juliana was already measuring spaces and taking notes. Rent's higher than I wanted, but look at this square footage. We could do a proper dance floor, separate dining area, maybe even a small stage for live music. Laura wandered over to where I stood, envisioning the kitchen layout. Penny, for your thoughts? I'm thinking about the menu. Fresh ingredients, locally sourced. We could do small plates, healthy cocktails with real fruit instead of processed mixers. You're already planning, aren't you? Can't help it. This place has good energy. She moved closer, lowering her voice. Speaking of good energy, want to help me with some menu research tonight? I found this amazing farmer's market cookbook. The way she said research made my pulse quicken. We'd been spending most nights together since that first consultation, but she still had her own apartment, still maintained the fiction that this was casual, even though neither of us believed it anymore. Research sounds educational, I managed. Very educational. I learn better with hands-on experience. Damn. The woman could make menu planning sound like foreplay. Elena, Laura, get over here, Juliana called. I want to show you something. We followed her to a back corner where she'd found a hidden alcove behind the main space. Office area, she announced. Or we could make it a VIP section. Quieter spot for people who want to actually talk instead of just get drunk and dance. I love it, Laura said. You could do different lighting, maybe some comfortable seating. Create distinct spaces within the same venue. Exactly. Give people options. Juliana checked her watch. I'm going to call the realtor and put in an application. This won't last long at this price. Should we discuss it first? I asked, trying to be the responsible one. Elena, sometimes you have to trust your gut. This feels right. She was correct, and I knew it. The three of us working together, the perfect space falling into our laps, Laura's marketing expertise and enthusiasm. It all felt like destiny or luck or some combination of both. Let's do it, I said. That evening, Laura came over with a bottle of wine and her laptop to work on preliminary marketing concepts. We spread everything across my kitchen table, but somehow ended up on my couch with a laptop forgotten and Laura's head in my lap while I played with her hair. Tell me about your last relationship, she said suddenly. Which one? The serious one. Before you became a workaholic hermit who lived on protein bars. Sarah. 3 years of thinking I wasn't enough. I twisted a strand of Laura's hair around my finger. She wanted me to be more social, more ambitious, basically more like someone else. She sounds like an idiot. Maybe. Or maybe I was just too comfortable settling for less than I deserved. Laura sat up and looked at me seriously. Elena Ward, you're brilliant, passionate, and sexy as hell. Anyone who can't see that is definitely an idiot. Before I could respond, she was kissing me with an intensity that made my toes curl. Her hands tangled in my hair, and I pulled her closer, tasting wine and promise on her lips. Bedroom, she whispered against my mouth. We barely made it down the hall before she was pushing me against the wall, her mouth on my neck. I fumbled with the buttons of her shirt while she worked on mine, both of us desperate and laughing when we couldn't get the damn things undone fast enough. When we finally tumbled onto my bed, skin against skin, everything else faded away. The bar, the business plans, the future we were building together. There was just Laura's hands on my body, the soft sounds she made when I touched her exactly right, the way she whispered my name like a prayer. Afterward, we lay tangled together in my sheets, and she traced patterns on my shoulder while I dozed. Elena? Move in with me. I opened my eyes. What? My lease is up next month. Your place is tiny. We could find something together, with more space for both of us. That's a big step. Is it too big? I thought about waking up next to her every morning, coming home to her every night, building something real and lasting together. No, I said, kissing her temple. It's perfect timing. Good. Because I already started looking at places. Of course you did. She laughed and pulled me closer. I'm efficient. You'll learn to love it. I was pretty sure I already loved everything about her, but I kept that thought to myself. Some things were still too new to say out loud, even if they felt as real as breathing. 3 months later, opening night arrived with all the chaos I'd expected, and twice the excitement. Our bar, Haven, buzzed with nervous energy as Laura directed the final setup while I prepped the kitchen for our first real service. Elena, the Prosecco display looks amazing, Juliana called from behind the bar where she was polishing glasses for the 100th time. Very Pinterest-worthy. Laura's idea, I replied, adjusting the fresh herb garnishes on our signature cocktail station. She said we needed Instagram moments. The front door chimed as our first guests arrived, a couple in their 30s, holding hands and looking slightly nervous. Then more women followed, some alone, some in groups, all curious about Milwaukee's newest women-only establishment. Here we go, Laura whispered, squeezing my hand as she passed with a tray of appetizers. Within an hour, the place was packed. Women of every age clustered around the bar, filled the dining tables, and gathered in our cozy VIP alcove. The energy was electric, like everyone had been waiting for exactly this kind of space. I watched from the kitchen pass as Laura worked the room, introducing herself and making everyone feel welcome. She had a natural gift for reading people, knowing exactly how much attention each group wanted. 2 more orders of the cauliflower bites, my part-time cook called. Coming up. I plated quickly, proud of how our healthy menu was going over. People were actually ordering vegetables at a bar and loving them. Around 10 p.m., the crowd had settled into a comfortable rhythm. Music played at conversational levels, laughter filled the air, and I finally had a moment to slip out of the kitchen. Elena. A woman I didn't recognize approached with a huge smile. I have to tell you, this place is exactly what Milwaukee needed. My girlfriend and I drove down from Green Bay just to see it. That's incredible. Thank you for coming. Are you the one responsible for these amazing Brussels sprouts? I never thought I'd say this about Brussels sprouts, but wow. 5 similar conversations later, I found Laura at the bar, glowing with satisfaction as she watched our full house. Successful launch? I asked, sliding up beside her. Beyond my wildest projections. Did you see the woman who drove here from Madison? And that group of teachers who said they're planning their book club meetings here monthly? I saw. You did this, you know. Your marketing, your outreach, your vision for making this place welcoming. She turned to face me, eyes bright with happiness and maybe a little wine. We did this, all 3 of us. Before I could respond, she kissed me right there behind the bar. Not a quick peck, but a real kiss that made several nearby customers cheer and applaud. When we broke apart, I was blushing furiously. Laura Scott, you're going to be the death of me. But what a way to go. Juliana appeared beside us with a bottle of champagne. Ladies, I think a private celebration is in order. We retreated to our small office in back, closing the door on the happy chaos outside. Juliana popped the champagne and filled 3 plastic cups. To taking the biggest risk of our lives and having it actually work out, she toasted. To finding something we didn't know we were looking for, Laura added, looking directly at me. To new beginnings, I finished, meaning more than just the bar. We clinked our cups and drank, giddy with success and exhaustion and pure joy. I should get back out there, Juliana said after a few minutes. Make sure nobody's starting any fights or stealing our good liquor. She slipped out, leaving Laura and me alone in our tiny office space. The sounds of the party filtered through the walls, but it felt distant and muted. Can you believe we actually pulled this off? Laura asked, settling into the desk chair and pulling me down onto her lap. Honestly? No. A year ago, I was eating sad desk lunches and avoiding social interaction. Now look at us. Now look at us, she agreed, nuzzling my neck. Business partners, roommates, and whatever this is we're calling our relationship. What do you want to call it? She got quiet for a moment, unusual for her. I want to call it permanent. I want to call it the real deal. Is that too scary? My heart hammered against my ribs. Not scary. Perfect. Good. Because I'm pretty sure I'm falling in love with you, Elena Ward. Pretty sure? Okay, completely sure. Head over heels, can't imagine my life without you, definitely in love with you. I kissed her then, pouring all my own feelings into it. When we broke apart, both breathing hard, I rested my forehead against hers. I love you too. So much it scares me sometimes. Don't be scared. We're good at this. A knock on the door interrupted us. Ladies, you might want to see this, Juliana called. We emerged to find her talking to an impeccably dressed woman in her 50s, all expensive jewelry and cold eyes that didn't match her polite smile. This is Miss Chen, Juliana said carefully. She wanted to congratulate us on our opening. Something in Juliana's tone put me immediately on edge. Laura stepped protectively closer to my side. Congratulations indeed, Miss Chen said smoothly. Such a lovely establishment. I represent certain business interests in this neighborhood that like to ensure new venues have everything they need to succeed. What kind of business interests? Laura asked. Protection services, insurance, the sort of thing that helps establishments avoid unfortunate incidents. Her smile never wavered. I'll be in touch soon to discuss arrangements. She handed Juliana an expensive business card and walked away, leaving the 3 of us staring after her. That sounded like a threat, I said. That was definitely a threat, Juliana confirmed. Our perfect opening night suddenly felt a lot more complicated. Monday morning brought bad news. Juliana called while Laura and I were still tangled in bed at our new apartment, her voice tight with anger. Someone spray-painted Dyke Den across our front windows last night. And they left a pile of broken bottles by the door. Damn it. I sat up, immediately awake. Are you okay? Did you call the police? I'm fine. Already filed a report, but you know how much they care about vandalism in the 3rd Ward. The responding officer basically shrugged and said kids these days. Laura took the phone from me. Juliana, it's Laura. Did they get inside the bar? Any damage to the interior? No, just the windows and some trash outside. But there's something else. That Chen woman called this morning. Said she heard about our little incident and wanted to set up a meeting. I felt my stomach drop. One day after her veiled threat, we were already having problems. "We're not paying protection money to some crime family," I said when Laura handed the phone back. "I agree. But we need to understand what we're dealing with here first." Laura was already getting dressed, her marketing mind clearly spinning. "What do you know about other bars in the area? Have they had similar issues?" "That's exactly what I was thinking," Juliana said. "I'm going to do some investigating today. Talk to other business owners, see what the real situation is." We spent the morning cleaning up the vandalism and replacing the windows. By afternoon, Juliana had scary answers. "It's worse than I thought," she said, meeting us at the bar with a folder full of notes. "Chen represents the West Side Collective. They control about 60% of the bars and clubs from here to the river." "Control how?" I asked. "Protection fees, liquor supply contracts, even security services. Most places pay between $500 and $2,000 a month, depending on size and revenue." Laura scanned Juliana's notes. "What happens to businesses that refuse?" "Best case scenario, ongoing harassment like we experienced last night. Worst case, mysterious fires, repeated break-ins, customers getting hassled until they stop coming." The blood drained from my face. "We can't afford $2,000 a month. That would kill our profit margins." "Which is probably the point," Laura said grimly. "Drive out independent businesses. Consolidate control." That evening, our second night of operation felt completely different. Where opening night had been celebratory, tonight customers seemed nervous. Several regulars from the weekend didn't show, and the ones who did kept glancing toward the windows like they expected trouble. "This is killing our momentum," Laura murmured, watching a table of women abruptly decide to leave after one drink. "Maybe we should just pay them," I said quietly. "Find a way to make the numbers work." "Elena Ward, I cannot believe you just said that." Juliana slammed down the glass she was drying. "We worked our asses off to create something special here. You want to hand it over to thugs? I want to keep us safe. I want to keep our customers safe. And I want to fight back." Laura looked between us. "What if there was a third option?" We both turned to her. "What if we organized the other independent businesses, created a coalition?" She pulled out her phone and started scrolling. Safety in numbers, shared resources, collective bargaining power. "You think other bar owners would go for that?" Juliana asked. "Only one way to find out. But first, we need to know exactly who we're dealing with." That night, after closing, Laura spread out maps and printouts across our kitchen table. She'd been researching the West Side Collective and their competition for hours. "Look at this pattern," she said, pointing to marked locations. "They target newer businesses first, especially ones without established customer bases. But they avoid places with strong community connections." Makes sense. Harder to intimidate a business when the whole neighborhood supports it. Exactly. So we build those connections faster than they can tear them down. I watched her work, admiring the focused intensity she brought to problems. Even exhausted and stressed, she was beautiful. The way her hair fell across her face when she concentrated, the determined set of her jaw when she found solutions. "What are you thinking about?" she asked, catching me staring. "How much I love watching your brain work. Elena, we're in the middle of a crisis." "I know. But crisis or not, I'm still crazy about you." She smiled and reached for my hand. "Even when I'm plotting to take on organized crime? Especially then. You're like a sexy, brilliant superhero. With better hair than most superheroes. Definitely better hair." We were interrupted by Laura's phone buzzing. Text message from an unknown number. "Pretty girlfriends should be more careful walking alone at night. Accidents happen in dark parking garages." The message included a photo of Laura leaving our apartment building that morning. My blood ran cold. "They're watching us. Son of a bitch." Laura screenshot the message immediately. This just became personal. "Laura, maybe we should reconsider. If they're threatening you directly." "No. Hell no." Her eyes flashed with anger I'd never seen before. "Nobody threatens my girlfriend and gets away with it. Your girlfriend appreciates the protectiveness, but she's also terrified." Laura set down her phone and took both my hands. "Elena, look at me. We're not backing down, but we're not going in alone either. Tomorrow we start building our coalition. And if it doesn't work, then we figure out plan B, together." I squeezed her hands, trying to draw strength from her confidence. 3 months ago, my biggest worry was whether my quinoa salad had enough protein. Now I was apparently going to war with the Milwaukee underground. Okay, I said finally. Let's do this. That's my girl. She kissed me softly, and for a moment I forgot about threats and protection rackets and broken windows. There was just Laura, solid and real and completely committed to our future together. Whatever came next, at least we'd face it as a team. Over the next 2 weeks, Laura transformed into a force of nature. She scheduled meetings with 12 independent bar owners across Milwaukee, armed with research and determination that impressed even the most skeptical business owners. The secret is making them understand this isn't just our problem, she explained to me and Juliana after securing our 5th coalition member. Chen's people hit Rusty's Tavern last month, then Murphy's 2 weeks later. Everyone's a target. I watched her present our case to a room full of hardened bar owners like she was born for this. Charts showing revenue losses, timelines of escalating harassment, legal precedents for collective action against organized intimidation. She'd found her calling in the most unlikely circumstances. "So what's the plan here?" asked Mike from O'Malley's, a gruff guy in his 60s who'd been running bars since before I was born. "We all hold hands and hope they go away?" "We document everything, share security footage, coordinate with the police and the business improvement district, make it too expensive and too visible for them to continue operating," Laura replied without missing a beat. "And if that doesn't work? Then we make it clear that targeting any of us means targeting all of us." By the end of the month, we had 14 bars in our coalition, plus 2 local reporters interested in the story, and a city council member who promised to look into business licensing violations. But Chen's people weren't sitting idle. Thursday night brought the confrontation we'd been dreading. I was cleaning up the kitchen when I heard voices getting loud in the main bar area. Through the service window, I saw 3 men in expensive suits cornering Juliana at the register. "Just a friendly conversation," one was saying. "About neighborhood cooperation." I grabbed my phone and texted the group alert Laura had set up with our coalition partners, then quietly slipped out the back to call 911. By the time I got back inside, Laura had materialized from somewhere and positioned herself between the men and Juliana. Her voice was calm but firm. "Gentlemen, we're closing in 15 minutes. I'll need to ask you to finish your drinks." "We're not here for drinks, sweetheart." "Then you're trespassing on private property." The largest of the 3 stepped closer to Laura, clearly trying to intimidate her. My heart hammered as I calculated whether I could reach the baseball bat we kept behind the bar. "You ladies seem to have the wrong idea about how business works around here," he said. "Ms. Chen made you a generous offer, which we declined, politely. Maybe you need a clearer explanation of the benefits." That's when the cavalry arrived. Mike from O'Malley's walked through our front door, followed by Sandra from the Collective and Tom from Brady Street Pub. Then 3 more coalition members. Within minutes, we had 8 bar owners casually dispersed throughout our space. The atmosphere shifted immediately. The suited men found themselves outnumbered by people who clearly weren't intimidated. "Evening, folks," Mike said cheerfully. "Hope you're enjoying Milwaukee's finest establishment here." "We were just leaving," the lead man said after a tense moment. "Smart choice," Sandra added. "Traffic gets heavy this time of night." After they left, I collapsed onto a bar stool, adrenaline still coursing through my system. "Holy shit, that actually worked," I breathed. "Told you," Laura said, but I could see her hands shaking slightly. Juliana poured drinks for everyone, while our coalition partners compared notes and planned follow-up actions. Watching them work together, seeing how quickly they'd responded to our call for help, I felt something I hadn't expected: hope. Later that night, Laura and I walked home through the quiet Third Ward streets. She'd been unusually quiet since our backup left. "You okay?" I asked, taking her hand. "Just processing." When that guy stepped toward me, I thought for a second we were in real trouble. "But you didn't back down. Neither did you, or Juliana, or any of our new friends." She stopped walking and turned to face me. "Elena, I think we're actually going to win this thing. Even if we do, there will be other challenges. Running a business, building something lasting together, figuring out what we want our future to look like. Is that what you want? A future together? More than anything." I pulled her closer. "You and me, the bar, this crazy life we're building, all of it." She kissed me then, right there under a streetlight on Water Street. soft and sweet and full of promise. When we broke apart, she rested her forehead against mine. "I love you so much, it scares me sometimes," she whispered. "Good scared or bad scared?" "Good scared. Like jumping off a cliff and trusting you to catch me scared." "I'll always catch you." "Promise?" "Promise." We walked the rest of the way home in comfortable silence, her hand warm in mine. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, more meetings, probably more confrontations. But tonight, we'd stood our ground together and won. Back at our apartment, Laura pulled me close as soon as we closed the door. Her kiss was hungry, desperate, like she needed to reassure herself that we were both safe and whole. "Bedroom," she whispered against my lips. "Are you sure you're not too exhausted?" "I need you, right now." We made love with an urgency that spoke to everything we'd been through, everything we stood to lose. Afterward, she curled against my side, and I listened to her breathing slowly even out as she fell asleep. 3 months ago, my biggest worry was whether my latest client would actually follow their meal plan. Now I was in love with an incredible woman, running a business that mattered, and apparently helping lead some kind of grassroots resistance movement. Life was definitely more complicated than protein bars and nutrition consultations. It was also infinitely better. 6 months later, I stood behind Haven's bar watching our Saturday night crowd with satisfaction that still felt surreal. The place was packed with regulars, new faces mixing with familiar ones, laughter and conversation filling every corner of our space. Our coalition strategy had worked better than any of us expected. Chen's organization had quietly backed off after the city launched an investigation into their business practices. 2 members were arrested for tax evasion, and suddenly the protection racket became too expensive to maintain. "Elena, table 6 wants to compliment the chef on the salmon quinoa bowl," our new server called out. "Tell them the chef is too busy being smug about her healthy food revolution," I called back, grinning. Laura appeared at my elbow, carrying a stack of financial reports. "Speaking of revolutions, want to see our numbers for this quarter? Good news or great news?" "Try miraculous news. We're not just breaking even, we're actually profitable enough to consider expanding." I scanned the papers, hardly believing what I was seeing. These numbers can't be right. Double-checked everything. Turns out Milwaukee really was ready for a place like this. Juliana joined us, wiping her hands on a bar towel. "What are you two looking so serious about? Did someone complain about the music volume again?" "Quite the opposite," Laura said. "We might need to start thinking about a second location." "Already? We've only been open 8 months." "Good problems to have," I said, still staring at our profit margins in amazement. The evening flew by in the pleasant chaos of a successful Saturday service. Around midnight, after we'd closed and cleaned up, the 3 of us sat in our office sharing a bottle of wine and planning impossible dreams. "What about Madison?" Juliana suggested. "College town, underserved market, reasonable real estate prices." "Or Chicago," Laura added. "Bigger challenge but massive potential customer base." "Slow down, you two. We haven't even figured out how to run one bar consistently yet." "Elena Ward, voice of reason as always," Laura teased, leaning against my shoulder. "Someone has to be practical in this partnership." "That's why we keep you around," Juliana said. "Well, that and your amazing cooking." I looked around our small office, remembering the terror and excitement of opening night, the threats and challenges we'd overcome, the way the 3 of us had somehow figured out how to build something lasting together. "You know what I love most about this place?" I said finally. "The profit margins?" Laura suggested. "The complete lack of sports memorabilia," Juliana added. "The fact that women come here and feel safe being themselves. No pretending, no hiding, no apologizing for who they are." Laura took my hand, like we did. Exactly like we did. A year ago, I was eating sad desk lunches and avoiding meaningful connections. Laura was trapped in a job she hated with someone who didn't really see her. Juliana was dreaming of business ventures she was too scared to pursue. Now here we were, partners in every sense that mattered, having created something that made a real difference in our community. "I have something to tell you two," Laura said suddenly, looking nervous in a way that made my stomach flip. "Please tell me you're not quitting to become a circus performer," Juliana said. "Nothing that dramatic. But I got a call yesterday from a food magazine. They want to do a feature on Haven, specifically on Elena's healthy bar food concept. My jaw dropped. A real magazine? Like, with actual circulation numbers? Food and wine. 6-page spread, professional photography, the works. Holy shit, I breathed. Elena Ward, future celebrity chef. Juliana raised her wine glass. I always knew you'd be famous someday. We'll be famous, I corrected. This is all of ours. Laura squeezed my hand. Speaking of things that are ours, I have one more surprise. She pulled a small velvet box out of her jacket pocket, and my heart stopped completely. Elena, I know we've only been together a year, but I've never been more sure of anything in my life. She slid off her chair and dropped to one knee right there in our tiny office. You're my best friend, my business partner, and the love of my life. Will you marry me? The ring was perfect, simple and elegant with a stone that caught the light beautifully. But I was too busy staring at Laura's face, at the hope and love and nervous excitement in her blue eyes. Yes, I whispered, then louder, yes, of course, absolutely yes. She slipped the ring onto my finger with shaking hands. And then we were kissing and crying and laughing all at once, while Juliana cheered and probably woke up half the neighborhood. This is the best night of my life, Laura said when we finally broke apart. Mine too, all of it. The bar, you, this crazy beautiful life we've built together. To new beginnings, Juliana said, refilling our wine glasses. To finding exactly what we didn't know we were looking for, Laura added. To home, I finished, looking at my ring, at my fiancé, at my best friend and business partner. Outside, Milwaukee slept peacefully. Inside Haven, 3 women who'd taken the biggest risks of their lives were planning a future that looked nothing like any of us had imagined a year ago. It was absolutely perfect.